Hi, guys.
Hey,
Welcome to this week's episode of Microsoft 365 Pulse. Jen is tied up doing really important work, so you just have Tamara, myself, and Tom today. But no fear, we're going to be going through the updates as always. This is the last week before we kick off Ignite, so we actually did have several updates, which is nice to see, but I'm sure we're going to have a much bigger update. There's a chance we won't have a show tomorrow next week, because everyone will be busy and tied up going through and doing stuff with Ignite. But I'm sure we'll have a pretty massive update coming sometime in the near future. But for now, let's go ahead and get into some of the roadmap updates that are coming out for the second, third-ish week of September, I guess is fair to say.
also known as the 54th week of March. So, yeah.
It's all the same at this point, right? So as always, guys, we're going to go through the 3/4 major categories that we have. We're going to start with in development, which typically means it's just recently been added to the roadmap, or at least it's in the first stage of the development for the roadmap, which means they've identified this enough and crystallized it enough for it to have a name and a description and a goal, but they're still going through and doing the actual coding and development and feature stuff for it. So, Tamara, you want to go ahead and start us off with what you found interesting in development?
Sure, there's a lot of stuff going on with Microsoft Teams, no surprise to anybody. But one of the things they're doing is an organizational branding for the line of business app catalog. So, what that means is IT admins will be able to customize their team's line of business app catalog using the organization's branding. And that's going to enhance the user experience for end users and increase the organic discovery and use of the organization's line of business custom apps. One of the things that I also found very interesting is they've added a last call to Microsoft Teams meetings. So they're calling it end of meeting notification. So Microsoft Team will automatically flick the lights no, they're not going to flick the lights. But what they're going to do is they're going to issue a 5-minute warning when a meeting is nearing close, and it'll be triggered for all scheduled private and channel meetings. So for me, that's like being in a bar and having the lights flick on and off,
Ding, ding, ding,
warning
ding,
you
ding,
that
ding.
last call is coming. Exactly.
Too funny.
And then managing your meeting options in the meeting. So the meeting organizers can now view and update meeting options within the in-meeting, making it easier and faster to manage your meeting options during a meeting. So you don't have to hop out and go to the scheduled appointment. So those are some things that are going on in Microsoft Teams that I found very interesting.
Cool.
So I get to cover all the things that I had highlighted because Jen's not going to steal them from me this time. Plus, I get to cover a couple things that she would normally cover, but none of us are Yammer people, so I'll just cover them at a high level. First one I found was really cool. Outlook for Windows. They're now going to have support for Immersive Reader, which is the same feature you have in Word. Basically, when you click on Immersive Reader, it kind of clears everything off the screen. It simplifies the document that you're looking at. You can say, read this to me, highlight the line we're on, whatever. Kind of a cool feature if you've got things that are a little bit more involved for reading and you get distracted by all the things around there. You're now going to see Immersive Reader for your emails, which I hope to God, you don't have any emails that big that you need to do Immersive Reader, but hey, it's a possibility now.
It's Outlook for Windows. Wouldn't that be email?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm hoping you don't get any emails that are big enough that you feel a need to go into Immersive Reader.
Oh, I get one at least a day.
Oh, okay. Well, in which case, hey, you've got something that will fit you.
I've got something that'll help me. Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? It's more than one screen? I'm out of here. Microsoft Search, there's going to be a new image vertical for Microsoft Search. So where you see like sites and lists and all these other people and things like that. Now you're going to have image. So they're kind of hopping on the bandwagon for you to do image searches, which I think are really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. It says that it will be available for search results in SharePoint and Office.com. It's going to come to Bing.com later. So that merging of Bing and the whole Microsoft 365 environment will continue to evolve from there. On the Microsoft Lists side, list items with a yes/no column, both in and out of quick edit mode, they're going to appear using the new experience design format. So that's going to be a little bit of a change from what you'll see for yes/nos. Word. In Word, they're now going to allow you to embed content in Word for Web. So if you want to put videos inside of a Word document and it's something that you're going to be using the browser to look at or something like that, you're now going to be able to see that content and it will be active within your document. That's something really cool. They're saying slides and more from a number of sources: YouTube, Microsoft Teams, SlideShare, Vimeo, you name it. So there'll be a lot of cool things you'll be able to try in there. Okay, that was all the ones I had there. Oh, Planner's getting dark mode. Yay,
yeah, I was going to
dark
laugh at that
mode.
one. The update everyone cares about, dark mode for
Yes.
Planner.
Okay, now I will do I'll pretend I'm Jen really briefly here. And this is the Yammer updates. I don't use Yammer. I'm not necessarily a fan of Yammer.
We love Yammer, though, guys. It's wonderful.
But we love Yammer, yeah. So I'm just going to go over real quickly because Yammer did get a lot of love in this one.
Yeah.
You've got new live events insights. So this will improve your live events viewership, monitor attendance, measure engagement, recognize trends. Same things happening for new conversation insights and new community insights. So if finding out what's going on with Yammer, who's being involved, who's engaging, if those are things that you're concerned with, keep a look for those coming out here fairly soon. Yammer, you'll now be able to browse community files stored in SharePoint with SharePoint library structure and capabilities. So that's going to probably make it a little bit more seamless in terms of being able to look at things instead of having, massively changing user interfaces depending on what you're using to look at that library. Yammer, select attachment uploads from SharePoint file picker. Hard for me to say. So in selecting a post attachment, Yammer will now use the SharePoint Online File Picker to select the file. You're going to have new people experiences, enhancing how users can share, post, and discover content from across the company. And did I catch them all?
There's a couple at the very bottom.
Feel like Pokemon here. Catch them all. Oh, yes, updated user interface for the Yammer tab in Microsoft Teams. That's going to get updated to include the new Yammer experience. And on Yammer, you will default to the new Yammer experience on the web, which I'm supposing if you use Yammer, you know what that is. I don't, so I'll just pass it along and keep your eyes open. It's in development.
One of the things that I think is cool, I see a lot of these updates. So I will give almost everything a shot when it comes out. I'm a geek for new technology. I think it's cool. So I gave Yammer the old college try. I helped some of my clients back in the day when it first came out try to implement networks and stuff. And Yammer always felt like something to the side of Office 365 to me. It was an acquisition that was successful on its own that they thought was cool, but it kind of felt like it was bolted on, like it wasn't really like a natural flowing thing. A lot of the updates that we see here that have been added in development, some of the ones we've seen over the last couple of months, really seems to me that now like they're actually truly starting to integrate Yammer to where if you are a company that likes Yammer or you're a company that likes how the workflow could work in Yammer, it's going to become kind of more natural to work with your other productivity solutions in Microsoft. So I think that's cool to see. I'm going to talk about a couple things from the compliance side just because I'm a nerd and I like that stuff, and they actually got a lot of love for the Compliance Center. This is something that's going to be big for Tamara's clients as well. But they have a whole bunch of updates coming through that all are slated to come over the next couple of months. I kind of see this as really cool. The Compliance Center is kind of just now emerging on its own. They've had the Security and Compliance Center. They have the Protection Center. It all kind of gets together. But they're really starting to kind of codify and solidify what each of those sections can be. So some of the updates that you see coming to the Compliance Center that are going to kind of be neat, they're going through and they're starting to do, first of all, records management and auto classification is going to be coming to the Gov Cloud, which is great. Auto classification of labels and being able to go through and apply them automatically through MIP is something that every big customer I have wants to do. And when you're talking to the customers on the government side, you're like, oh yeah, that's great. It's expensive, but you can't do it. That's always a letdown. So it's nice to see that. But seeing where they're going through some of the compliance stuff, just doing stuff that makes it easier going through day to day. You can do stuff looking for conflict of interest, looking for going through and trying to see if two people are doing like insider risk or insider trading, or if there's collusion going on between people. They're starting to add some really cool business intelligence things to go through and do stuff that, oftentimes you may be required to check that up until now Microsoft didn't really have tools for, that now when you're storing all these documentations, you're doing all this communication stuff for, if you have compliance or regulatory things that say, hey, you need to be monitoring for the stuff going on internally, Microsoft is now actually developing solutions that are going to make it easier to see. Tom actually pointed this one out too, which is probably kind of a sad record of our times. They're even putting something in place that actually has the ability to go through and monitor content and look for burnout and suicide detection. So just going through, and we're talking about mental health of people, looking for trends that have been correlated to people being more likely to be at wit's end. This is kind of a personal one for me. I have had people that I've been close with before in the past that have gotten stressed out with the drive of stuff going on at work and basically had mental breakdowns or had really large issues, or unfortunately even had someone that I know that committed suicide. The idea that Microsoft is developing time and tools to look for this stuff, even if it's just to give someone a heads up to make people aware of, I think is actually really, really cool. And again, kind of shows some of the direction that they're going with the Compliance Center, some of the tools they're trying to make available. So it's cool to see some of that stuff being developed. I'm sure we'll learn more about this over the coming weeks. I imagine there'll probably be some pretty cool compliance stuff they talk about at Ignite, especially to see in the week before, hey, bam, here's 8 new Compliance Center things that they've added to the roadmap. Right. But excited to see the direction they're going with it. I think it's really cool. Anything you wanted to comment on that, or any other things you wanted to talk about, Tamara?
Yeah, not comment on that, but one of the other things that I thought was really neat was for Outlook iOS. It's going to support Scribble with the iPad OS 14. And what that means is that you'll be able to use your Apple Pencil with Outlook to scribble in text fields such as the body of your email, keyword search, and new event scheduling, and your handwriting will be converted to text. So instead of having to type on that really lame iPad
most people's
keypad,
handwriting, probably not mine.
Well, I think you just have to be careful with your handwriting so that it actually looks like letters.
There's a reason I type things now.
Mm-hmm. When you write, it looks like one giant letter.
Yes.
Yeah. Adam just holds the whole thing in his clenched fist and does the whole crayon routine here.
Just claws at it.
But yeah, so a lot of cool updates coming. Like I said, guys, we expect this to kind of blow up over the next couple of weeks over at Ignite. Cool to see some of the stuff going. Specifically, we like seeing Yammer looking like it's getting more integrated in. A lot of cool stuff coming to Compliance Center. And I also personally love, Tom talked about this a little bit, you're seeing them continue to invest in lists, which they rolled out moderately recently, and doing some more stuff there to try to make that quality of life. And again, the trend we've seen for 6 months now, that they're still heavily investing in improving Teams because it's become so centralized and important to everyone's life with the COVID and work from home stuff. So great stuff from that. Let's go ahead and move on to rolling out. This section's definitely short this week. So is the launch. So it'll be a little bit shorter from here. But going into rolling out, and again, this is the section that's going to be a lot bigger come the next couple of weeks. Oh, by the way, we launched these huge major products. It's half the things that they'll do, right? But so for right now, going through rolling out, Tamara, you want to go ahead and kick us off again on anything that you're excited about?
Yes, I'm excited about all of them. It's really hard to pick. One of the things I'm excited about is Microsoft Project has finally gotten on the bandwagon and is launching custom fields at the task level, so that the task custom fields enable you to add details to your task so you can manage your project more effectively. Fields such as numbers and dates can be created for tasks and shown in a grid view and the task detail pane. So I think that's great. We're giving project managers that flexibility to add custom fields. The other thing that I think is really great, oh my God, Tom, I got to leave something for you.
Got 3 highlighted. You can take one of those.
All right. Microsoft Forms, they're now adding a progress bar for multi-page forms and quizzes, so that when you're setting up a multi-page form or quiz, which when enabled will show responders the progress bar. The progress bar is a visual indicator telling the responder how far they are through the survey. Example, page 1 of 3. So this feature is off by default on new forms and quizzes. So the form owner should choose to enable the setting if they want to use this. I think it should be on by default. So,
Yeah,
but it's not on by default. You've got to actually turn it on.
Yeah, just being able to give people a clue of, okay, you're in the middle of this. How much longer is it going to take you to finish it? I think that's just like normal user interface stuff that you should have regardless. So,
And then one that I'm not excited about is Vizio self-service purchase capabilities for Vizio. Holy, this is just, I hate it when Microsoft does this. Microsoft is enabling individuals and teams to purchase some Microsoft Vizio products directly with their business domain. I'm like, what? How is IT going to know what's going on and make sure that their licenses are up to date? It's just,
They're basically enabling shadow IT.
yeah, I know. Except for India. India is safe from this.
And government and education is safe from it
And
too.
government and education is safe from this too.
well, they
So,
tried
but the rest of the world,
I like how
is
we're
gonna
like
be
safe
closed.
from this update.
Yeah.
well, they tried to do that once before. I don't remember exactly what it was for, whether it was Teams or SharePoint or what.
My nightmare was they allowed people to sign up for trials of Power BI, which then locked their domain into Azure AD, so you couldn't use it anywhere else.
It's like, have you not learned, people?
That is the hill I will die on, Tom.
All right, I'm done. I won't take
Tom, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, let me grab a couple here of the three that I had highlighted. You took the forms one. Thank you very much. That was at the bottom of my list.
Okay.
A couple of SharePoint/OneDrive ones. There's a feature rolling out called Add to OneDrive. So it's a capability.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, this is really cool. So if somebody has shared a folder with you, instead of you having to find the content based on things that could be interesting to you, stuff like that, you can actually now add that shared folder, or basically a link to it, into your OneDrive. So I guess you could call it more like a shortcut probably for what you've been shared with. But it just allows you to see all that stuff in one place, which I think is just like freaking awesome. Especially if you're going to be working in and out of these folders, why should you have to figure out what's
shared with me tab? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, was that my folder? Was that their folder? Where is my folder? I don't know. Now it's just, single list. Everything's going to be out there. That's cool. So long as they don't make them golden folders, we'll be okay. You'd have to be a longtime listener to this particular webcast to get that reference. But yeah, we've joked about it many times over the months and years. The second one, moving on quickly, the second one that we've got is SharePoint lists and libraries. You're now able to have a fixed height when you're in Quick Edit. This has actually hit our tenant, and it's really, really nice. Where normally if you're in Quick Edit and you have a multi-line text field that's showing up, you could have 4 lines on your screen. You could have 10 lines on your screen. You're never quite sure because it's variable. When you go into fixed row height, it's going to truncate the information that displays in those multi-line text fields to maybe like 2 lines. And so everything will be consistent. So you're always going to see 10 lines on your screen, 12 lines on your screen. And to me, that makes a huge difference in trying to scroll up and down and see things instead of having things bounce around and thinking, well, if I hit down 3 times, did I get down 6 rows or 15 rows or 32 rows? It's going to be consistent. So definitely look for that one. It may already be in your tenant. Like I say, it's in ours, and I've already found myself in love with that feature. So
yeah, so from my side, the main one that I saw that I thought was cool, advanced threat protection is basically getting some features added that probably should have been added for forever, which is basically just having the ability to export the reporting on it. Advanced threat protection has kind of been its own thing for a bit. It was an add-on, and it's starting to become more and more popular because it's a fairly affordable add-on to go through and get for users. But a lot of the reporting that you had on it, because it was kind of its own special add-on, didn't have the same export, import usability that a lot of the other stuff in the security and compliance area does. But so they're basically adding that. So things like threat protection status report, mail flow status report, malware spoof detection, senders and recipients, URL protection, stuff like that. You can basically just download reports on that. I really see this more than anything good for people that have compliance needs that these features are helping to meet. Because oftentimes if you have those compliance needs to do it, not only is it that you're using it, but that you're reviewing it regularly and things like that. All the time you'll see you review the system audit logs weekly. So being able to go through and export these reports and just throw them somewhere to say, hey, look, you can see over the last 3 months we've gone in every Friday and looked at these reports and downloaded a copy is a big win. So nice to see that being brought up and done as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but finally, the advanced audit is becoming available in GCC, GCCI, and DoD, which is basically a solution inside of the 365 Security and Compliance Center. Talks about audit logs and some stuff they can do for it, but basically that's coming to the GovCloud, which is nice to see.
Cool.
One other thing I'd like to add is Microsoft Teams is NDI for Teams. And what that means is it's going to convert a meeting participant's video into a discrete source that can be then used with production tools for professional broadcasts.
Oh,
so you
cool.
can pull out just one video and make that the highlight.
Very nice.
All right, well, I think we can probably move on to the last section, which is launch. So this obviously is stuff that everyone should have available in their tenants right now. Again, a moderately short section, but we'll go ahead and let Tom start this one out since we let Tamara do the last two.
And I took them all.
Yeah, I pretty much have half of the whole thing here in launched highlighted, but a lot of these things are ones we've talked about in some cases really recently, like tasks in Excel. I think we talked about that in rolling out last week. Now it's in launch, so you should have it out there. New rich text editors for SharePoint lists and libraries, improved quick edit row selection, things like that. Visual updates for quick edit in list. Also, SharePoint lists and libraries are now going to allow you to rename the column, the title column, where you could always change the name of the title field, but you couldn't always necessarily change the column name that was out there. Now you're going to be able to do that, which I think will be really cool. Other than
just
that,
remember, do not change the title column on the item content type.
Okay, yes,
because
that
that
would be
changes the title column for everything across your entire platform.
Ooh.
Ask me how I know.
I'm guessing you have scars that you could show about that.
I do. I have scars. It's true.
Probably the only one that I hadn't seen before, or I'm just old and I'm forgetful, is allowing user to override locked files to delete. This is interesting because usually if you have a file open in another tab on a different computer, or somebody has it open, they forgot about it, it's effectively locked and you can't do anything. It's not like you can say override the checkout. No, they have it locked. You can't do anything. Well, this particular feature now is going to allow you to override that lock and delete the WXP file, which I believe is the file suffix for a lock file, when someone or yourself has it open, whether intentionally or not. So I'm thinking that's probably going to be cool when people are like, oh, so-and-so has this locked and I checked with them and they don't have it open. How do I get it open? Usually I was like, well, you'll wait about 20 minutes for it to time out and then you'll be okay. And now you can actually go out there and override that. I do fear that people will go out there, look at that and go, oh, this says so-and-so has it open. Well, I need it. Boom, override it. And the person loses whatever they were doing. So there could be a few issues with that. However, I think it's still
cautioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is overriding the locked file to actually delete it.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
to just regain control over it. It's like,
well,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it says this feature allows you to override that lock and delete a WXP file, not necessarily like the Word file or the Excel file that you got.
Okay.
So great. I don't think you're losing that, but that I've got this and I'm working on it and I haven't saved my changes yet. Mm-hmm. You might get a little burned on that one, but it's out there. Feel free to try it.
Tamara, Tamara, you have anything you wanted to go over?
Yeah, Microsoft Teams, they now have a channel information pane. So when you click on the channel info icon, the channel header, it'll display a summary of information related to that channel, including the description, a list a list. How about a list
At
of
least.
recent contributors and members as well as system messages? And then in Microsoft Forms, there's a new Office 365 header. So it'll have a similar look to the rest of the Office 365 family of
That's good.
apps.
I'm going to have a very basic, simple one that I thought was kind of cool. Basically, Microsoft is just adding some labels into the Admin Center messaging section, so to allow you to better filter what's coming through. So basically, the area that Microsoft communicates with the admins of Office 365 tenants, they're adding labels such as feature update, new feature, user impact, admin impact, stuff like that. So if you want to go through and all you're really caring about is user impacting events, you can go through and look for that label and then only be looking at the updates that are user impacting. Just a little quality of life thing that's nice to see them adding.
That'd be great if you're a trainer in an organization, just see user impacts. That's really a great idea.
So,
Another thing that's not on this list, but when you were talking about the trainer piece there, Tamara, if you go out to the message center, at least it's out in our client. I think it's probably rolled out to everybody. You now have the option to sync it to a plan out there. So all the messages
you can soon do in dark mode. Sorry, go ahead,
that you can do in dark mode. Very good. Nicely played there, Adam. I see what you did.
Good callback.
So it like syncs every day to this planner you set up, and all the stuff goes into backlog, and then you can assign it out or put it into buckets based on whatever you want to do. You could probably do Power Automate flows to do things with them. But that would be really cool if you're trying to keep track of what's coming out and what kind of training you may need to do to let your users know. Getting that information going into Planner automatically is kind of a huge step, so you don't have to sit there and pull it out and get the email and then put it into a task or stuff like that. You just go straight into Planner and manage it from there. So that's something to keep an eye out if you haven't seen it lately. I think I set it up because I thought it was cool, probably about 3 weeks ago. And I'm probably the only person looking at it. But again, for historical purposes, I'm going to have nice buckets of general, teams, exchange of all the messages that have come out in descending date order. And that's kind of a cool thing for me, I guess.
No, it's wonderful to have, especially if you ever have a problem back in the day. You can go back and say, oh, did Microsoft tell us about this? Is this something that should have been out? And have a system they'll go through and have that accurately tracked that was pulled out automatically. It's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah. And add notes to it, like what steps are you taking to mitigate this new thing coming out?
Due date, progress, stuff like that. For me, it's more, I'm just pulling out the message center stuff into a planner so I can see it grouped by XYZ.
Yeah.
And that's really
it's easier to consume that way.
Yeah. So good enough for the start at least, and then we can always go with it, in different directions if we need to.
Well, guys, that about wraps it up for the week for us. Again, hopefully you guys have registered online for Ignite. A ton of our friends are speaking there. There's going to be a lot of really cool events. I'm sure there are going to be new features that they roll out and highlight fun things you can do. It's always great. I know all of us here have attended before and have enjoyed them in the past and stuff. But with this year, with everything going on with COVID, it's online and it's free. So everyone should go through and register if you haven't already. Strongly encourage you to do so because it's a great experience to be able to. It's kind of half product launch announcements, half party, but it's kind of a cool atmosphere because it's kind of you're among like-minded people that do similar things. I always know I leave Ignite feeling refreshed. I know Tom and I have specifically talked about that too, that you're around other people that are excited for new features and things they can do in their organizations. Of also, you kind of come back like, ready to conquer new challenges. So if you guys haven't signed up for it yet, we strongly encourage you to do so. We will all be there to an extent, attending meetings, talking about stuff. So we definitely encourage you guys to do it as well. And besides that, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.